Envase Technologies creates a suite of solutions that makes it easier to run your trucking business. For drivers and carriers, our solutions put control back in your hands with a TMS, capacity and storage marketplace, and rate management system. Optimize your operations with less administrative headaches and increase the value of your time spent on and off the clock. Envase Technologies, driving progress, delivering innovation. For more information, visit envasetechnologies.com. That's ENVASE Technologies.com.
Hey, supply chainers, wherever you are in the world, this is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Are you ready to talk supply chain? Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. We've got a great show for you today. We've got somebody here all the way from South Africa, and I can't wait to talk to him about technology, supply chain, logistics, sustainability. So stay tuned because we have a lot to talk about. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain. I'm also the founder and host of the Blended Podcast and the founder of the Blended Pledge as well. And we couldn't do this show without our show sponsor. So are you ready to find your people? If you are struggling to find a supply chain community of like-minded professionals where you can level up, network, learn about best practices from experts in supply chain, professional development, and marketing, look no further. We created the Secret Society of Supply Chain to provide a safe space, a community for everyone in supply chain. We offer unique opportunities for everyone to connect and grow in our three distinct value-packed communities: the supply chainers, women in supply chain, and the creative room. From the learn at your own pace, content-rich approach of the supply chainers to the empowering community-focused space of women in supply chain and the marketing mastermind of the creative room, we mean it when we say there's truly a place for everyone. Head over to secretsocietyofsupplychain.com to explore which community was made for you. And for anybody listening and watching, make sure you put in the comments, I want to know where you're tuning in from. We want to hear from you. If you have any questions, we want to hear from you as well. All right, let's see what's happening with Let's Talk Supply Chain this week. So we have episode 401. Now, we recycled I think the first or second episode of Relax Talks. So Relax Talks is one of our brand new live shows for 2024. And it is with rave reviews that it's coming out. And so we wanted to turn that into a podcast episode. So for those of you who haven't seen it live, we wanted to put it into a podcast so you can download it and listen to it as you walk the dog or whatever you decide to do. It's episode 401. There's a lot of great insights here. So go and check that out. Now we've got Supply Chain Unfiltered. So this is happening live at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Christine Barnhart is going to be talking about navigating the supply chain maze on her show called Supply Chain Unfiltered. And it's definitely unfiltered. You're going to be able to learn so much. She brings valuable insights to the community every single month. So go ahead and click that attend button, even if you can't attend live, because I will send you the recording. And then on Friday, Eric Johnson goes live with LogTech Live, talking about digitize, disrupt, and deliver, unlocking the future of logistics. Now, this is happening Friday. He's always bringing the tea. So go and click the attend button, and I will send you the recording, even if you can't attend live. And next, we have a LinkedIn Live happening Thursday, April 25th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And we're talking about winning in supply chain design in 2024. Now, I don't know about you, but supply chain design has been coming up a lot for me. It's something that is top of mind for a lot of supply chain professionals in 2024. And we're going to show you how you can win at that. So again, go and click the attend button. And if you can't attend live or have to drop off, I will send you the recording. Next, we have a LinkedIn newsletter. That's right. Let's Talk Supply Chain now has Let's Talk News, and we want you to be part of this. We're going to be showcasing, news. We're going to be showcasing events. We're going to be showcasing what's happening in supply chain. So this is going to be your go-to. Go and click that subscribe button. and come be a part of the fun. What else have we got going on? Oh, yesterday I released the Monthly Hustle, which is my personal LinkedIn newsletter. And I really shared a story about my journey around my love hate relationship with public speaking. If you followed me for a while, you may have heard bits and pieces of it, but I really dive deep into what actually happened. I don't know, 33 years ago that set me on that path. So, would love to hear your thoughts, but go and check that out. And today is our birthday. We are celebrating our 6th anniversary as Let's Talk Supply Chain. So, stay tuned to our social media on Instagram or LinkedIn today because we're going to be sharing some fun, nostalgic pictures and what's been going on in the last 6 years. And thank you so much to everybody for all your support over the last 6 years. We wouldn't have been able to do that without you. And last but not least, we came out with the top 8 supply chain technology trends for 2024. The link is in the comments. Go and check that out because we put together a nice little carousel to talk about what you should be thinking about in 2024 when it comes to supply chain tech. All right. I have spoken way too much, gone over time, and it's now time to bring up our guest for today. Welcome, Nahi. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. I'm well, thank you, and great to be on the show. And happy birthday to you and all your listeners.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I mean, 6 years. I feel like 6 years has gone like that. And we are making so many upgrades and changes and all sorts of things this year. So it feels like the time. Even this studio is actually going to look very different by the end of this month. And so it's exciting. It's exciting. Thank you so much. You're calling in
Very
from South
exciting.
Africa, right?
That's correct, from Johannesburg, South Africa.
What's it like in Johannesburg today?
So it's starting to get a little cooler, moving towards the winter now, being in the southern hemisphere, but still, beautiful blue skies and wonderful place to live.
Amazing, amazing. I have not been there yet, but it's definitely on my bucket list. So hopefully one of these days. All right. So why don't you let everybody know who you are and what you do?
Sure, thanks, Sarah. So my name's Nachi, and I lead the business development team for WiseTech Global into Africa. And I also act as the global customs domain owner, where basically I work together with our team and customers around the world to see how we can tackle this really challenging question of global customs and compliance, on a global level. It kind of sounds a little bit like an oxymoron, global customs and compliance, because we're all aware that it's a very localized thing,
Yeah.
and every country and every region has such specific requirements and complexities that to even look at this at a global level is inherently very challenging. So quite enjoying trying to solve these challenges together with our customers. Yeah.
Well, and you're the right guy to do it. This is the second time you've been on the show. I believe you were on a podcast before, maybe it was a live, and we had a lot of fun. You gave the listeners so much incredible insight. So I'm looking forward to more of that today. But I want to give a shout out to Audrey Ross because I hope she's watching right now because what you're talking about, global customs, she deals with on a regular basis, and it is not easy. So I hope she's watching and probably nodding her head furiously at everything that you are saying right now. All right, let's get to the poll of the week. So we asked everybody a question, and we ask everybody a question every single Wednesday morning across the Let's Talk Supply Chain, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So the question was, which area do you see the most potential for supply chain optimization through AI? Now, we had almost 400 votes for this one. 50% of you said demand forecasting. 23% of you said inventory optimization, 16% of you said route optimization, and 11% of you said warehouse management. Nahi, what did you think of these results?
I find these results very interesting. when we talk about AI or machine learning or a lot of these different technologies, the boundaries of what actually each thing is often get a bit smudged. But what's clear is that when we are dealing with massive amounts of information and we need to be able to make decisions on how to do things like demand forecasting or route optimization, or how to manage our warehouse and inventory, we need tools to help us to make sense of all this data and hopefully to provide us with actionable insights. We're just seeing the start of how these tools and AI can really help us. And a lot of that is about helping us to have the relevant, pertinent information at hand at the right moment. For example, the latest routes or schedules of ships, or the latest rates, for example, or maybe even where there's different clog ups in the supply chain, so there could be delays in transit time. So it's quite incredible that as we are starting to be able to access all these different sources of information and how we can start bringing them all together, the intelligence of the decision making of users. So I think it's important to look at a lot of these tools not as something that should be making the final decisions necessarily, but something which is providing the user with insight and all the pertinent information at hand, so that they can then make a very well guided decision along all of these areas. One place where I see is lacking on the poll is, again, customs and compliance. Because when you think about the amount of rules, laws, procedures, documents, certificates of origins, destination, dual use, data, harmonized codes, for a user to stay on top of that in this ever-shifting world of regulation, it's incredibly difficult. And so I think that AI and machine learning and better, indexing of information is going to be incredibly powerful in that space as well.
Great. Awesome. And I want to say hi to Afifi and Fred over on my personal LinkedIn. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you in the audience, let me know what you think about this question. Do you agree with the 50% of demand forecasting? Do you agree with Nahi that we completely missed global compliance or customs compliance as well? We'd love to hear from you in the comments. All right, Nahi, before we get to our first article, I ask all of our guests this question. Can you give us a bit of a market update? Like, what are you seeing from your standpoint? What are customers? What's top of mind for customers? What are they asking about? What are you seeing?
Absolutely. So what I'm finding the big topic for customers is always a question of productivity and sustainability. Productivity in many ways is about how productive your staff are and how profitable you are. And our industry is very cyclical. Freight rates, there's great uncertainty around it. And so it's very important for companies to become as productive as they can to really unlock all the inherent profitability in the job and to ensure that you can achieve as much as possible with as low overheads, as low recapture mistakes as possible. So we see that definitely is a big topic around the customers, but also sustainability at a larger scale, i.e. like the sustainability of planet Earth is becoming quite an important topic at the moment.
Yeah.
And the whole conversation around things like greenhouse gas emissions, etc., which we'll be talking about a bit later, has also become really pertinent. And so, again, the main topics that I'm finding the customers are speaking to us is, how do we really unlock productivity? How do we do this in a way which is scalable and sustainable?
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. And we've got Bill Robinson, who works with CargoWise and your system, and he's over on my personal LinkedIn. Want to give a shout out there. All right, let's get into our first article. Now, the first article I pulled from the Maersk website, and the reason why I did that was because I wanted to talk about this particular topic that they brought up at the beginning of February: transforming Africa's logistics landscape trends shaping 2024. One of the reasons why I thought this was interesting is because, as everybody knows, I have been the first one to franchise a podcast. We had one in Asia Pac. And the reason why I want to franchise the podcast and have these conversations in different regions is because supply chain is very different in different regions, depending on a variety of different reasons. But what was interesting with this particular article is that this focused on supply chain technology within the Africa's logistics landscape. And the tech challenges are pretty similar to what we are talking about, thinking about in North America. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about what this article talks about. So they brought in digital transformation, cybersecurity, automation and robotics and logistics, growing e-commerce, which means last mile delivery software is really important out in Africa, green logistics, which is what Nahi talked about as well. So Nahi, talk to me a little bit about what you thought about this article, or maybe there was a couple of things missing.
Great, thank you. So it's an incredibly interesting topic, this question of digital transformation in Africa, because in some ways what we're talking about are two ends of the universe meeting. We're talking about some of the least developed countries in the world trying to embrace, the latest in technology. And so it's quite fascinating to see, how this actually plays out, because one of the interesting phenomena which you observe in Africa when it comes to this is this idea of leapfrogging. So what happens, for example, with most countries is first you would have, regular telephone lines, and then those telephone lines would have moved to cell phones, and it would have been 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. But within Africa, when you're implementing, for example, a telephonic system for the first time, they'll go straight to 5G. So what happens is very often, because there isn't existing infrastructure or existing ways of doing it, what's actually being implemented in many countries across Africa is the latest of technology, and is even more advanced in some ways than as many more established countries have aging infrastructure, which might be getting old. So sometimes you'll have an amazing 5G network, but you won't have proper roads. So it becomes very interesting, to watch the different speed of the development and the technologies. There's massive growth across Africa at the moment, and there's the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which most of Africa has now signed and are ratifying, but it's going to take a long time to actually get all these different countries to work together. 54 out of 200 and two, depending on which count you go to, 198 countries in the world are in Africa. You've also got like close to a quarter of the world's population, and there's massive potential for growth across Africa. And as I say, it's very interesting trying to overcome the institutional voids and the local challenges using technology, which is a great equalizer in terms of allowing people to communicate across borders, across languages, across cultures, and ultimately helping people, to be more successful.
Absolutely. That was one of the things when I was taking a look at Africa, was the amount of different languages and different cultures that you have across the continent to sort of bring together in in a way that you can communicate through a podcast, because I've been exploring this a few different ways. But one of the other things during my research is that there has been a lot of investment in infrastructure within Africa. There's also been a lot of investment into solar in Africa, as far as I understand it, and that's also helping with some of the energy that's needed for some of this infrastructure if you're building buildings, and also running some of the operations that's needed in Africa as well. One of the other things that the article said was smart logistics is becoming very, very big in Africa, and I like to hear that. But like you said, there's a few challenges, there's a few things that need to be overcome to be able to adopt some of these technologies. But it sounds like it's on its way, and people are talking about it, people are implementing it, and that's really, really exciting. All right, let's get to our next article. It's not really an article. It's more of an ebook that CargoWise wants to share with you about global customs and compliance. Now, what they're talking about is logistics is prioritizing speed and efficiency. And how do we create a balance between what our clients want, which is fast, but also being compliant? As Nahi talked about earlier, there's so many nuances, there's so many moving parts, there's so many things that you need to know that differ from country to country, region to region. How do you keep on top of it? So Nahi, walk me through why you put together this ebook. Why is it so important? What can people learn?
So it's a real challenge, this idea of global customs. If we're just talking about global customs in a single country, we can understand the complexity and how important it is to get it right. When we get it wrong, the risks are not just delayed shipments, but they can be incredibly challenging risks in terms of penalties which are leveraged against companies, and even the reputational damage. And this question of customs and compliance is a challenge which is only getting more complex all the time. As we've discussed, there are so many different legislative requirements which have to be covered depending on the product which you're using, the origin, where it's coming from, where it's going. Maybe the product can be used for dual uses, and therefore you've got to be careful because though it might be just a computer chip in one product, it could be actually used for other purposes. Right. So for the average person to be able to know and remember all of that complex information and to have it at hand to make the right decisions is very challenging. And a user, could in a moment make a mistake that could have deep financial, reputational risk for both the importer-exporters and the freight forwarders. Now, when you take that question from one country and now you multiply it, let's say where you're working over 50 countries now, and it's not just 50 countries where you've got different rules and compliance, but you've got 50 different systems perhaps running. Right. And each of those systems are in different languages, and each customs department has its own processes and procedures. And you're recapturing the data again and again, each and every time, which naturally just opens up a window to making these mistakes. So this becomes incredibly challenging, but it's always been a challenge of, well, what can we do? That's just the way it is. Global customs is an oxymoron, and it's just not a possible vision. So WiseTech has been challenging that and has been investing really heavily, for example, to develop native custom solutions in covering, all of the major English-speaking economies. We're also working to cover the major Asian Pacific economies, as well as the main economies in Latin America. And our stated goal is to cover the entire supply chain, including all of the customs procedures for 90% of all manufactured goods.
That's going to be a big ebook.
Working. This is going to be an big ebook. We're not quite there yet, but we've got really smart and brilliant people working on this. Mm-hmm. And what a lot of people thought was impossible is actually something that we're now making possible. One of the challenges back to Africa, which we are seeing, is cybersecurity. An interesting thing about Africa, for example, is as we bring these really sophisticated systems to people who sometimes haven't had the full, experience of working through systems their entire life, often these people are at risk of cybersecurity risks and spear phishing attacks and things like that. And what we've seen very often is with big companies, the way that these hackers, so to speak, are getting into their systems is they're not coming in through the main system, which has been cyber hardened and really made strong. They're coming in through that back door, maybe through a small customs engine somewhere in Africa or in the Far East somewhere, wherever it might be. So what we're seeing more and more is that for a company to truly cyber harden, their systems and to make them robust to deal with these latest risks, etc., it's not good enough just to do that with your main systems. It's often these side systems that you're operating in all these side countries, which can be a massive risk for companies.
Wow.
And so really what the ebook is about is how to overcome many of the challenges we've seen worldwide, which our customers are experiencing, and how having a single system, which would therefore have which is available in multiple languages. So no matter where you are, you could use it in your own language, but still be working through the same procedures and processes, where suddenly you're not recapturing the data. There's global visibility. And also you've got a single contract with your service provider who is a cyber hardened system, which really has, put great effort into locking down these risks around cybersecurity. And what this really allows for a company is to start thinking about how do we handle the challenge and complexity of customs and compliance at a global level.
Yeah.
So up until now, such a topic really wasn't even possible. And this ebook is really to explain and educate about what we're doing and how one can really overcome these global challenges with total local confidence.
I love that. Now we've put the we've put the link in the comments. So you can go and grab your copy of the ebook. Anybody on my personal LinkedIn, I'll be updating that after we end the show. But cybersecurity is a really, really big topic right now. So who are you doing business with? How many systems do you have? How are they getting in? All right, we only have like 1 minute, a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes on this last article, but I do want to talk about it. So Forbes came out with an article, 5 proven tips for building a more sustainable supply chain for your business. I know we've been talking about sustainability a lot. Nahid said that it's top of mind for a lot of supply chain professionals. And so I think we still need to talk about it. Now, what you'll get from this particular article are some really cool examples. One of the things that they talk about around building a sustainable supply chain is mapping out your supply chain. Now, when New Balance did this, and this is one of the examples in the article, they reduced their supply chain by 65%. Like that is a really big number. And they made it more sustainable through mapping out their supply chain. The other things that they talk about is reducing transportation emissions, suppliers, continuous improvement, reducing waste, constantly measure the outcome. And I know, Nahi, you guys are working on some greenhouse emissions projects. Can you quickly give us an idea of what that's all about?
Absolutely. So just 2 main points that I'd like to mention. The first is that mapping out your supply chain. How many trucks spend how much of their time empty, doing empty loads or half loads. And when we think about not just trucks, but containers, boats, etc., really understanding your demand. And again, that was the big thing that in your poll came out as something companies are trying to get a handle on, as well as then making sure that you're optimizing your carrier bookings and allocations filling those containers, you're filling those trucks, you're reducing the total amount of movements, and at the same time are making sure that you have high availability of goods. That's absolutely vital. And once again, it's a matter of having all the information, being able to see all the bookings, the order, the demand, and then making sure to, optimize that effectively.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
even if you are doing a highly optimized routing planning, demand forecasting, and fulfillment planning that you've got, there is still going to be emissions. Every vehicle, boat, plane, truck that is involved is going to have carbon emissions. And it's become a very important thing, especially in Europe, to be able to measure these. There's different standards around these, including the GLEC framework, the Global Logistics Emissions Framework for this. And effectively, what you need to measure this is you need to have the dimensions of the goods. You need to know the routings, the origins, the destinations. You need to know the vessel types that are involved. And if you can do this, you can then do the calculation on how much greenhouse gases would be in it. So we are, WiseTech has been developing a greenhouse gas emission module, and we are in testing with a number of customers. All that information in terms of the goods dimensions, the details of the routing and the vessels or vehicles being used are already in CargoWise. So we could effectively, what we're working to do is to be able to provide a greenhouse gas emission calculation from the quoting level. So you could actually say, look, if you do it by this routing or this transit time, this will be your actual footprint. But hey, if you're willing to wait another day or two, and often people don't mind, waiting. It's not vital the actual date. Well, then we could maybe reduce your greenhouse gas emission by this amount.
Awesome.
And then to take that through all the way to invoicing and reporting. So
awesome.
Very exciting. And please
I love that.
Make contact if you'd like to learn more.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. All right. We are over time, but really quickly, I want to let everybody know where I'm going to be. So the end of this week, I'm going to be at Atlanta for Relax Live. Then next week, I'm going to be at Coupa Inspire in Vegas. Then I will be at the Global Supply Chain Marketing Summit, June 5th through 7th. Also Home Delivery World. I'm going to be at Home Delivery World on June 5th as well. June 9th through 11th, I'm going to be at TMSA's conference, and September 26th and 27th, I will be at Commit Events Retail and Supply Chain Exhibition, and I cannot wait to see you all there. Thank you all for tuning in. Nahi, you were an amazing guest. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.